Welcome to the Geoff and Gena Show. I'm Berkeley Jeff,
And I'm Berkeley Gena.
discussing the recent misogynistic comments made in the Bahamian Parliament on April 24th, 2023, by former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who is a seasoned gynecologist that brags about how many Bahamian babies he delivered in his career before entering politics, and insisting that as a reason why Bahamians should elect him as their prime minister again. Keep in mind, he didn't fulfill the full one term that he had.
It was 4.5 years. He
Thrown
served
out.
and he was kicked out. So his list of children that he delivered includes the children of Loretta Butler Turner, who is the granddaughter of the first Governor General, Sir Milo Butler, and she is the former leader of the Free National Movement Party while they were in opposition prior to the May 10th, 2017 elections.
Minnis offended parliamentarians with jokes about him bringing rape whistles to the Honorable House of Assembly as gifts to women parliamentarians to protect them from the burgeoning rape culture that he never addressed while he was Prime Minister, even though a public forum was held to discuss this issue. See, they have all these illegal migrants coming in. The rapes started going up in two prime ministers ago, and they've just been getting worse.
Right. Jeff, Minnis is so insensitive. He chose to make fun of women's fear of the lack of legal safety measures needed to fend off the abusive culture that exists amongst them and has increased with the proliferation of illegal migration and human trafficking.
Gena, we have the clip right here so our audience can see for themselves how he is unfit for office to represent women who are at least 50% of the population.
We replaced that with recall, okay? Just didn't recall.
It's unfortunate the bill was delayed twice, and I stand very strongly in support of my business leader for the opposition. He has a very, very good memory. Madam Speaker, this is a government of mass confusion. I will stick with him. That is becoming more and more unstable by the day. And this confusion and instability are presided over by a prime minister who couldn't even get the deficit straight. Another veteran minister publicly rebuked the decision of the government, and nothing happened. All of this weakens the prime minister's dwindling authority. The deputy prime minister is the one announcing projects all over the country. And I ask the question, should the PM be concerned? The prime minister and his tourism minister seems to be at odds. And a story in the Nassau Guardian, Madam Speaker, I have support documents to support whatever I say, and I will table it then. A story in Nassau Guardian a few weeks ago reported, quote, in a statement on Sunday night, Davis said the RCI deal remains under review pending the outcome of the environmental impact assessment. The Prime Minister referred to the project as a draft deal. However, when the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation announced the deal on March the 7th, he said the government approved the project. He added that final approval is subject to an environmental impact and an environmental management study. The next day, Davis said he expected ground to be broken on the project almost immediately.
First and foremost, I don't see the relevance, and the member has not assured us of the relevance of what he is debating. But could this member be talking, Oban? Could he really be talking about confusion about the Oban deal? He, as former prime minister, he wishes to talk about something. Why don't you discuss Oban and tell us whatever happened and tell us what the documents are to this point? We ain't find the documents yet. But you signed those documents that weren't, and nobody knows who the people are. But you signed it. And you have the nerve to talk about us continuing discussion with investors? Please tell us about the Oban deal if you wish to talk about confusion.
The day after the Minister of Education reiterated her position, the Deputy Prime Minister said, "My only comment is that the Cabinet approved the RCI project." Yet, the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture on the 22nd of March stated, Cabinet has not approved RCI project. The Cabinet, Madam Speaker, is in utter disarray and confusion. So within a matter of weeks, the Minister of Finance didn't know the deficit numbers and blamed his mistake on someone else. 2 bills were pulled at the last minute. There's open dissension on a cabinet matter, and now there's confusion about the state of a proposed investment. Madam Speaker, just imagine, if there is confusion or indecisiveness about a project on a small key, 3 different ministers having different opinions, can you imagine the type of confusion that this government would undergo when dealing with an entire nation as opposed to a key? Madam Speaker, at the heart of this array, confusion, weekly mistakes, and mass disorganization is a Prime Minister who seems himself out of his depth. However, the PLP is good at one thing, getting PLP straight. Madam Speaker, we are here today to deal with another self-inflicted wound. Now that explains it to you. Another self-inflicted wound and major mistake the PLP presided over by the disorganized Minister of Finance. Opposition statements by my colleagues, the leader of the opposition and the member for East Grand Bahama, outlined how the PLP made use of $232 million in IMF special drawing rights held by the central bank. The opposition pointed out that the administration's behavior was not supported by law. That is why we are here today, Madam Speaker, to pass this bill, to make it retroactive. This type of behavior by the New Day administration no longer surprises most Bahamians. The Central Bank Amendment Bill seeks to make provision for the insertion immediately after Section 17 of a new Section 17A to empower the minister to access, utilize, or convert special drawing rights allocated by the IMF for the purpose of reducing its foreign currency debt obligations and to manage its foreign currency debt operation. When made law, Section 2 of this amendment takes effect from December the 1st, 2022, retroactive. It is the responsibility of the Minister of Finance to ensure that proper rules and procedures are followed when it comes to oversight of the people's money. If the rules were not followed, if they were not followed properly, and now the administration has to pass a law to justify its behavior, the Minister of Finance bears the blame for what occurred. Yet again, we have an example of the Minister of Finance's inability to handle the job of finance. It was he himself, the Prime Minister, who sat in here and said the Ministry of Finance is a big ministry. It is a difficult job. You cannot just take the advice of certain senior officials. The Minister of Finance has to read the files and documents clearly. his failure to understand the BPL brief led to higher electricity costs for Bahamian families and businesses. He has to know the numbers and understand what they mean. When the Minister of Finance signs documents, does he know what he is signing? Does he understand the information before him? He has already had to apologize for presenting inaccurate information in the mid-year budget and then blamed others for his big mistake. Now we are passing a law to justify what this administration has already done. The Prime Minister does not have the capacity, it would appear, to manage such big ministry. And as long as he stays in this position, there will be more errors and embarrassment for this New Day administration. Is the Minister of Finance or the Prime Minister afraid of making the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Works, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Social Service, or even the member for Bain and Grantstown, making them Minister of Finance? Any of those four has the capacity, or those five, has the capacity to manage it. Madam Speaker, following the rules is important. From this bill, I didn't recognize, I didn't say you. From this bill, I didn't say you. I don't remember you were good at math at SAC. From this bill having to be passed, it is clear that this New Day administration did not follow the rules. There's another issue of cabinet convention that was in the press recently. The issue is not about opposition having a certain so-called authority or not on this matter. The authorities in this matter are cabinet rules and conventions. The Minister of Education publicly said she does not agree with the decision made by the Prime Minister and his administration, granting approval for the Royal Caribbean deal on Paradise Island. The Minister of Education, Madam Speaker, is a nationalist to the core, and has a right to her opinion. She is a strong minister. Stick by your word. I respect that she has a different opinion. She has been consistent with what she said in the past while in opposition. It is the Prime Minister who is being blatantly inconsistent. I'm getting there. Our system of government is based on collective responsibility of the executive. When a member of the executive publicly speaks out so strongly against his or her administration policies, that member has an obligation to resign, and if not, the Prime Minister is compelled to ask that appointment to be revoked. The Prime Minister knows how our system works on this matter. He should know the rules. After all, he's been in this parliament a long time. Yet he came out defending our strong nationalistic Minister of Education's criticism of him and the decision his administration made on Paradise Island. Just like the rules were not followed when it came to the money used regarding central bank, the rules of our political system are not being followed here. The reason the Prime Minister is not acting is because he can't. He does not have the authority in his party that the past PLP leaders had. This display of weakness of authority will have implications for the functioning of this administration. If members of the governing party see that the Prime Minister does not have the capacity to discipline those on his side, everyone will start publicly voicing their opinions and disagreeing with their leaders' policies. When 3 members of my government voted against one of our budgets, I asked for their resignations because they had a fundamental disagreement with government policy. One of those gentlemen now sits in the PLP cabinet? One imagines that he now feels he has full license to disagree with certain cabinet decisions, like a certain project in Adelaide. Madam Speaker, like so many Bahamians, I am deeply concerned with the direction of this administration. As I noted at the beginning of my contribution, the PLP's parliamentary agenda is chaotic. Bills are brought for debate at the last minute. Some are pulled at the last minute. The Prime Minister's jet around conference to conference, not staying at his desk long enough. Taxes, fees, and costs of living keep rising. Crime remains out of control in New Providence. This is not what the Bahamian people expected when they elected this administration a year and a half ago. Madam Speaker, our citizens are concerned and frightened by the recent wave of gun crimes and murders in this country. Hence, will the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security inform the Bahamian people how many convicts have been issued firearms under this PLP administration? What types of firearms have these convicts been issued? And how many of these convicts who have been issued firearms have been previously convicted of crimes involving dangerous drugs or firearms? How many of these convicts who have been issued firearms have spent time in prison? And how many whistles has the Prime Minister given to our females to deter criminals? Madam Speaker, Prime Minister's statement, government should provide women with whistles to help deter crimes. How many females have gotten their whistles? Madam Speaker, I say,
Women dying,
Madam Speaker,
abused. Yeah.
if these questions are not answered in a timely manner, then I may be forced to release information in my possession. Madam Speaker, government should lead by example. And when government do not follow laws, the Bahamian populace likewise would do the same. And that contributes to the criminality that we see. Here today we are debating a bill because the government had not followed the law. And there are numerous examples, the procurement bill, road traffic, and I can go on and on. Madam Speaker, a Nassau Guardian editorial last Thursday, April 13, quoted the Minister of Tourism. Quote, "Downtown should be one of our proudest achievements, not a place we continue to make excuses for," said Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, Chester Cooper, just over a year ago. The state of this historic thoroughfare is disgraceful and embarrassing. Downtown is, unfortunately, littered with too many derelict buildings that have become havens for vagrancy that is a constant complaint of Bahamians and our guests. I plan to work with the Ministry of Works, Police, the Office of the Attorney General, and the Office of the Prime Minister to tackle these issues head on. 1 year later, several buildings have indeed been knocked down, and there's more police presence, but the state of downtown, Madam Speaker, has grown worse, not better. I have often heard that buildings that are neither pleasing to the eye nor functioning to the city are protected as historical sites that may require laws to be amended. I am told that outdated building covenants that limit the height of structures are also impediment. I foreshadow that will require adjustment as well. But the editorial continued, last we checked, no adjustments had come. Cooper said, existing and new legislation would be used to make the necessary changes to have downtown restored, kept clean, and provide a unique experience for our visitors and Bahamians. We do not expect laws to be made overnight for a problem as long-standing as the issues occurring downtown to be solved rapidly, but a year is more than enough time to have made meaningful strides. Property owners downtown have been the beneficiaries of generous redevelopment incentives for many years. Those who had shipping interests were also the recipients of major investment by the people of the Bahamas in the Iraqi port. But the government continues the soft pedal on this issue, dallying and changing city ordinances and antiquities laws that would allow them to take action. Frankly, Cooper's portfolio is far too large to give downtown the focus it needs. And while the Davis administration was finding government jobs for all of its members of parliament, it should have had the foresight to have at least a parliamentary secretary with responsibility for downtown redevelopment. The property owners deserve no more soft peddling, and the government should take drastic action with regard to downtown. Madam Speaker, along with many other...
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Exuma and Ragged Island.
Assume the member for Kalani is accepting that as his own, and he will lay it on the record. But perhaps he should go further and say that in his short 4.5 years in office, what has he done with the article that he accepts? It indicated that this has been a long-standing problem. What has he done when he had a chance to do so? Now he sits and he pontificates as if he's running for leadership of the F&M or something, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member.
Don't cause me to spill beans on you. We have a pack. Don't cause me to talk. Don't cause me to talk. We have a pack. No, men never talk on each other. Along with many other Bahamians, I am deeply disappointed that the construction of a new central bank headquarters will no longer be built on the site of the old Victoria Hotel. The central bank has the funds to construct a new headquarters. A national competition was held for a new modern and beautiful complex that would help to rejuvenate downtown. Parliament approved the transfer of Crown land to the central bank. Why was the decision made not to go ahead with this major project? Was this a cabinet decision? The cancellation of the new headquarters at that site, Madam Speaker, is very disturbing and begs many questions that need to be answered. As we noted in office, we were giving consideration to using the old central bank complex as a potential temporary museum space for the enjoyment of Bahamians and visitors. Madam Speaker, when you talk about wastage, do you know that this central bank project had started under the Christie administration and continued under the Minnis administration? Up to $12 million have been invested in the development of this new central bank at the Victoria Court. $12 million now just disappeared. Madam Speaker, it's the people's money. If it was their personal money, it would not have happened. But the people's money, $12 million, just disappeared. And currently, the central bank is about to commence construction, and don't stop it, to commence construction on the Frank Watson Boulevard or highway, where they will place their currency operation and IT unit. Don't stop it. The PLP, it is in Kalani. No. No, it's not. The PLP has also decided, you've already thrown away $12 million. Let me carry on, man. The PLP has also decided not to go ahead with the new multi-story complex at PMH, which is critical to improving health care. They promised a new hospital. Typical of the PLP, this is highly unlikely to happen. But I'm certain, and they have my support and blessing, that Grand Bahamas will commence and carry on. A new judicial complex was to be built on the site of the old main post office, which we demolished when we were in office. What has become of this? A new complex with necessary staff must be a part of a comprehensive response to crime. The new cruise port, which was approved during my administration, is set to open soon. It is the largest investment in downtown in our history. And we're doing a similar one in South Eleuthera. Don't try to claim it. Nothing to do with you. Thus far, this government has done nothing materially to help revitalize Bay Street. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister and the PLP are failing to confront our national crisis. They're also failing and behind on what they promised in their blueprint for change. In its election blueprint, the PLP promised to transform the tax system to make it more equitable and progressive, and to encourage national growth and prosperity, end quote. Instead of fulfilling this, they are adding on more and more taxes. Things are becoming less equitable and more regressive. The PLP promised to, quote, revamp and streamline processes at Bahamas Investment Authority, Registrar General, Department of Inland Revenue, and other agencies to become one of the most business-friendly countries for local and foreign investors. Well, it is even more difficult getting things done through inland revenue. And the only people seeing a more business-friendly environment are foreigners. The PLP also promised a rising tide program. In their blueprint, they promised to, quote, support partnership with wealth for the collective benefit of all. They said they would, in conjunction with the residency by investment program, encourage joint ventures with Bahamians on projects for sustained economic development through Bahamas Invest. We will create the framework to expedite projects under this initiative. The country sees little evidence of a rising tide of opportunity for the vast majority of Bahamians. There is a rising tide of money, a rising tide of travel, benefits, and luxury for certain PLPs. But the rising tide most Bahamians are experiencing is a rising tide of crime, a rising tide of bills, a rising tide of illegal immigrants, a rising tide of new taxes, and a rising tide of other problems. Bahamians, Madam Speaker, are drowning under the rising tide of problems caused or made much worse by a new day PLP that is mostly concerned about the personal rising tide of wealth, while most Bahamians are suffering from the PLP neglect, waste, and indifference. Madam Speaker, I brought a gift because I want to help the Prime Minister. I brought a gift for the women in this Parliament. All the women. Madam Speaker, I'll start with you. The Prime Minister said in order to deter crime, he recommends Government should provide women with whistle to blow to deter crime. Madam Speaker, I have everybody's whistle to ensure that every female adheres to what the Prime Minister wants to do. Madam Speaker, a whistle for you, a whistle for Seabreeze, a whistle for all the other members. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
In response to his gifts, Minister of National Security Wayne Monroe went public with the denunciation of the former Prime Minister's comments and stated the following in a local newspaper report written by Leandra Roll.
She wrote, National Security Minister Wayne Monroe criticized former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis in Parliament yesterday, accusing him of making a poor joke about rape victims. Dr. Minnis alluded to his successor's comments in 2020 about how the government should provide women and children with complimentary whistles. Prime Minister Brave Davis, then the leader of the official opposition, was roundly mocked for the recommendation, even though experts accept whistles as a tool to prevent sexual assaults. Now, yeah, the whistle thing, you know,
that was extreme
and light. You would think more police on the street, but anyway. During his contribution to the debate on the Central Bank of the Bahamas Amendment bill yesterday, Dr. Minnis said he was concerned by the violence in the country.
During his contribution, Mr. Monroe chastised the former Prime Minister. He said, quote, Killarney, that's Dr. Minnis, because he represents the constituency of Killarney. Killarney, when he was here, told a poor joke about rape victims, of all things, and that he has brought whistles now, he said. When they were in power, he should have recruited policemen. He should have bought police cars. St. Anne's MP, that's Member of Parliament, Adrian White, tried to get Mr. Monroe's comments struck from the record, insisting Dr. Minnis never joked about rape, which he did. Mr. Monroe replied, quote, let me be quite full in what Killarney, that's Minnis, said, because it was and is distasteful, end quote.
Wayne Monroe added, Madam Speaker, you know, I said to one of my colleagues on this side, I've really had enough of the self-righteousness of the people on the opposite side. The member of Killarney raised an article that related to rape victims and the use of whistles to deter rape. That is what he did in this place. We told him when he first said it that it wasn't in good taste, and in the end, in laughter, he talked about having a whistle for you and having a whistle for Elizabeth. It was in poor taste. It amazed me that it was said by a man who had the ability to buy police vehicles and not let us have to buy 100 of them. A man who had the ability to recruit police officers so that we're not recruiting 2 and 2.5 squads per year. That man has the gall to come in here and talk about he's going to give you a whistle. Yes, St. Anne's. It's not funny. It's not amusing. And it really ought never to have been said.
Geoff, apparently Dr. Minnis's remarks were so offensive to the media, which is the fourth estate, and to the public, which is the voter pool, that local radio talk show hosts had to discuss its effect on the public on air.
Morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. Today is Wednesday, April 26th. It's a little after 11 o'clock in the morning. Once again, this is C.A. Nuri and I shall be your host for today, as I have an interesting dialogue. Mind you, I'm hoping that John Pinder still calls in today, because I remember we engaged him yesterday and he said, hey, I might call in. And so I want to give him the opportunity so I can ask 1 or 2 questions still. However, today's show, I continue the theme on whether the Bahamas has a rape culture. And in order to explore that, to hash that out, I want to still delve into several pronouncements, several quotes that have engaged it in recent times, right? I also want to engage a question that Aaron Green had asked 2 shows ago. And let me see if I can get the right wording. Whether it's okay to, or what's worse? Let me make sure. What is worse, right? A man should not have to rape his wife. Let me say that again. A man should not have the need to rape his wife versus a man should not rape his wife. I'm putting that question out again to see if we can see what the difference is. Is there a difference, or is it the same thing? I wanted to also explore the commentary that the member of parliament for Kalani raised about whistles. There's a quip that he used, and versus the Minister of National Security, Wayne Monroe, harsh line response. And I wanted to know, was it equal? Was it a flippancy in the member of parliament comment? Or was there an irony and flippancy in the Minister of National Security's comment? But I'll start from there. And again, I have Erin Green joining me. And I'm having her come in as an advocate and not necessarily as a co-talk show host, because I'm going to be putting questions to her. And this theme for today is, why are Bahamian men so scared, so concerned about this marital rape bill? I'm trying to that. And is there really a concern? Then I'm going to push to the advocates, those persons who are pushing forward, to appreciate the concern for men, Bahamian men, and try to accommodate. And as we move forward to push this bill, that we can consider their concerns as we move forward. So that's the theme. But let's start off with this, Aaron. And welcome, by the way, Aaron.
Morning. Thank you.
Yes, advocate, human rights advocate. And I was speaking in broad terms. Recently, Hubert Minnis made a remark in the... And you have that quote?
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
even good. I can let you even read that for me. But let me just pre-warn. He made a quote, and I think his goal was to make fun of, reference a old suggestion of the the current prime minister
when he was in opposition.
When he's in opposition. Back then, I remember I was alarmed by the opposition leader saying, "What does that make?" But I understood why he made it, because it needed to be referenced to say as you remember it. However, the response by the Minister of National Security left me feeling some type of way. And I wanted to know if the listening audience felt it too. All right, and I'm going to explain that, but Erin has the direct quote, and I can let her read that into the record so we can analyze it and see if I am wrong. Go ahead, Erin, and welcome again.
Yeah, morning, thank you. Monroe, the article is called "Monroe Calls Minnis's Comment About a Rape Whistle, quote, distasteful and not amusing." That's a Nassau Tribune that was in yesterday's paper, right?
Okay.
Monroe calls Minnis's comment about a rape whistle distasteful and not amusing. It reads, telling the women parliamentarians he got each of them a whistle. Minnis alluded to his successor's comments in 2020 about how the government should provide women and children with complimentary whistles, right? Davis was roundly mocked for the contribution, for the recommendation, even though experts accept whistles as a tool to prevent sexual assaults, right? So there is research, there's studies conducted to show that this is an effective tool in preventing them. And here's the quote. Dr. Minnis said he was concerned by the violence in the country. He asked, how many whistles has the Prime Minister given to our females to deter criminals, Madam Speaker? According to the Prime Minister's statement, government should provide women with whistles to help deter crime. How many females have gotten their whistles? Madam Speaker, I say if these questions are not answered in a timely manner, then I may be forced to release information in my position. That's what the article said. I think he meant possession. They meant possession, right? Quote goes on. The story says, this is contribution. He took out a whistle and told the women parliamentarians he brought a whistle for each of them. And he said, I want to help the Prime Minister. I brought a gift for the women in this parliament. All the women. Madam Speaker, I'll start with you. The Prime Minister said that in order to deter crime, he recommended government should provide women with a whistle to blow to deter crime. Madam Speaker, I have everybody's whistle to ensure that every female adheres to what the Prime Minister wants them to do.
And we'll pause right there. I assume that's theatrics, right? But I understood the intent of the Member of Parliament for Kalani. And I'm not sure if you agree with me, right? I believe there's a need to hold our leaders to account for past statements, past initiatives, past decisions that they have made. As the leader of the opposition, Philip Davis recommended that each person, each woman, supposed to get a whistle, and that he brought in evidence that this is a deterrent. At that time, I said, that's not a deterrent for our culture, because whistle is a thing for party and merriment. So it wouldn't work here, because if I hear a whistle, like I said, man, who blow type of day, and I assume drums will follow. That's just me.
You don't think whistle Junkanoo bear? I gotta be there?
What?
I hear whistles. I think Junkanoo.
Yeah.
There must be bear. I must be there. I'm going to find out where this whistle is. That's like seeing a back trunk open. When I see a back trunk open, I know some delicious, magical, old bear-ish food inside there that's going to hook me.
Exactly. Yeah. But it just got my point. So I understand the critique. And I understand the nature of what Hubert Minnis intended, right? I even understand why he even brought out the whistles out. And so I can give each one of you all. Because it was a goading and it was a call of hypocrisy of the now Prime Minister of not following through. He's not committed in terms of, and this is me, and forgive me for the brash words, not committed to protecting women. Because if he was, initiatives would have been put in place, and especially during this time where it seems as if Bahamian women are under attack. That is not happening, and we need to realize, and women need to call our leaders out. You said he's going to protect us. You, in opposition, you said you had ideas, and to this date, it hasn't been brought forth. But then there was a response. There was a response by the Minister of National Security, right? And I think he's trying to get points, right? And I felt offended, and I'm going to give my reason why I felt offended.
By Minister or by Monroe?
By Monroe. I can tell you why I felt offended.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, but I want you, do you have the response by Monroe to read there? I'm not sure if you got that for the record.
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to read that, and I can tell you why I feel offended, and I want to know how you felt for either commentary as an advocate, a woman's advocate, right? And how women should feel, and then again, know how women in the House of Assembly should feel and their response, or supposed response. I want to go through all of that.
All right, so we go down to the article where it says, during his contribution, Mr. Monroe chastised the former Prime Minister. Kalani, when he was here, told a poor joke about rape victims of all things, and that he has brought whistles now. He said, when they were in power, he should have recruited policemen. He should have bought police cars, right? St. Anne's MP Adrian White tried to get Mr. Monroe's comments struck from the record, insisting Dr. Minnis never joked about rape. Mr. Monroe replied, let me be quite full in what Kalani said because it was and is distasteful. He added, Madam Speaker, you know I said to one of my colleagues on this side, I've really had enough of this self-righteousness of the people on the opposite side. The member for Kalani raised an article that related to rape victims and the use of whistles to deter rape. That is what he did in this place. We told him when he first said it that it wasn't in good taste. And in the end, in laughter, he talked about having a whistle for you and having a whistle for Elizabeth. It was in poor taste. It amazed me that it was said by a man who had the ability to buy police vehicles and not let us have to buy 100 to recruit police officers so that we're not recruiting 2 and 2.5 squads per year. That man has the gall to come in here and talk about how he's going to give you a whistle. Yes, St. Anne's, it's not funny, it's not amusing, and it really ought never to have been said.
And this is where I come in. Aaron, we had a show, a joint show, where I called for the resignation of the Minister of National Security. You remember when I called for the Minister of National Security?
Yeah, because
I want you to conjure up what he said, what he did to children, Bahamian children, but what he said, right? And when he comes with this flippancy that someone else is doing something anti-woman, and say, wait, sorry, forgive me. Good gentleman, what you said about a child can give consent for sex was so offensive. See, I'm spitting all over you, Aaron. Sorry.
That's
Forgive
all
me
right.
for that. I have to spray the whole mic after this. Was so offensive, Aaron. He should not be a member of parliament at all.
Man,
He
listen.
definitely should resign as Minister of National Security. So for him to have the audacity now
Yeah.
to come out and say that member of parliament is minimizing rape when children inside the Bahamas get molested, when men is yucking out their guts,
Yeah.
right? And he's saying, don't, it's so flippancy, right? Yeah. And have the audacity come into our honorable House of Assembly and to talk idle foolishness.
Because it gets.
And the women inside it didn't say nothing to say, hey, let me say this. But for you need to sit small. You don't talk about women issues no more. You don't talk about children's issues no more. Because you're offensive to womanhood.
You are not allowed. I would say that you are not allowed anymore. I also call for the minister's resignation. And because what does 100 cars do? What does 100 cars do for the policy to eradicate violence against women and rape generally? What does 2.5 squads per year do if you don't put the resources in to A, train these officers, but more importantly, B, this is the most important part, shift the culture within the force to make it more likely that convictions will happen. Because it's not the name of the act that's preventing convictions from happening. It's that a large portion of your officers don't believe the acts that they are authorized to police are actually crimes. They don't believe that these things warrant their attention. They don't believe that they should be spending their energies focused on these issues. And we're going to have to say it. One of the biggest running jokes through the country is, who are the waste boyfriends? And if they aren't all uniformed forces, then it ain't none. Then the waste boyfriend is a woman. That's the biggest joke. So I am with you. There are multiple. Hold on, it gets better.
But let me inject.
Yeah.
Aaron, you remember when a number of religious leaders came forward, also echoing our concern about the Minister of National Security, saying that he sounds like a defense lawyer, that he's taken up seemingly for the criminals, and not understanding that we are hurting out here. We are paranoid and concerned that women are concerned to walk the streets. And when you hear people say, don't worry, crime is down, but rape is up, right? And then when he comes up and say these, and nobody's saying a word, right? He does not have the right to speak anymore.
Listen, due to forces beyond my control yesterday, I shifted the nature of the presentation I wanted to make. Here is something, though, that I want to add to my list of reasons why Wayne Monroe should resign forthwith. I mean, not resign forthwith. He should train a replacement first in parts of the job, not all, but he should do that first. Here's an article from yesterday's Tribune. Monroe, marital rape was, quote, not on agenda, close quotes. It's 25th of April, yesterday in the Nassau Tribune.
It ain't urgent. That's right. That's what he said. Marital rape is not urgent.
It's better than that.
It's not urgent?
No, because I didn't hear him say it wasn't urgent, you know.
What did he say?
What he said was, why are we talking about it if it wasn't in the manifesto for change? He said, I didn't campaign on it. And what's implied is I don't really want to be talking about it. That's what's implied. I implied that. Nobody else. I am in the implication business.
I hear the implication.
But let me read. I don't see any point on stating an opinion on something that's not on the legislative agenda. And the Prime Minister's spouse has already said that we need to have widespread consultation. I'm going to say, Minister of National Security, It don't matter if it's on the legislative agenda. It's on your agenda, because your agenda is to concern yourself about the experiences of Bahamian citizens when it comes to crime. People are being molested. What we are saying is, people who are being molested within the confines of their marriage, are they deserve it, right? Do they deserve to have that act recognized as a crime? That's your job, sir. You keep telling us what your job isn't. You keep telling us what you're not prepared to do. Why you didn't tell us that when you were on the election trail? Why you didn't pronounce it to everybody in the country? And no, we don't want your opinion. We want the opinion of your constituents from your perspective as an MP. See, it ain't your opinion at all. What is the opinion of your constituents on the matter? And B, what is your position and as a minister responsible for policy and the enforcement of policy? It has nothing to do with your personal opinion.
Aaron, I want you to highlight something again.
Yeah.
Because you just said it, and I think it went over our heads.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to ask you, what is the job of a member of parliament? Just generally.
To represent their constituents, to bring their needs to the House of Assembly so that they can be considered law and policy.
And you conclude with the creation of law and policy. Just now you read that the Minister of National Security made a commentary about widespread consultation.
Yeah.
Who did he say announced the need for widespread consultation?
The Office of the Spouse.
You voted for her?
No.
You mean you voted for the Office of the Spouse?
No. In fact, I didn't even vote whether we were going to create that office or not. I didn't even have a vote on that, and I think that's a constitutional thing, because the Constitution creates offices. And that's why I talk so much about this presumption of the office of the Deputy Prime Minister, because that doesn't exist either. Yet we could find money to fund those offices and all of the accoutrements, but we can't find money to put toilet paper in the hospital or signs on parks to say little children shouldn't play there.
Aaron, I ain't gonna let you escape. The good gentleman, the minister, who has a whole portfolio, the member of parliament, who has a whole portfolio what to do, said who and what is supposed to do what?
He said that we need widespread consultation. The government should engage in widespread consultation. Anyway, that's even if they pick it up.
But who he said is promoting it?
The Office of the Spouse.
Not a member of parliament?
No.
Not a minister?
No.
And you all still don't say that the gentleman needs to resign? Like you ain't see the problem?
Oh, no, I see the problem.
You see the problem?
I've been calling for him to resign for a hot minute.
God have mercy on me, man.
It ain't just you. It's several of us. It's only 4, but I mean, I presume the other 2 may be
Man,
in
you
my
like
head.
it, man. This is no personal thing. This is talking about governance and good governance.
And understanding your role and function in governance.
The good gentleman don't understand what his job
Mr.
is.
Nuri, I won't talk, but I see we have a call.
Let the caller come through, because I vexed though. I vexed her at it, man. Blouse and skirts, man. It happens in the Bahamas, man. We decent people, you know. I come from decent people.
Because listen, we're talking about an issue that most people say, like, you know, everybody say, well, we don't know what you know, when we talk about marital rape, we say, okay, these are adults. You don't have to get married, da-da-da-da. We're talking about the breadth of it. Children, how could a 7-year-old consent?
I say, resign, get fired.
See, we could not, listen, I see the call I can't
Let's go to the caller, man. Let's go to the caller.
So, we will end the discussion here. And until next time, I'm Berkeley Geoff.
And I'm Berkeley Gena.
Blessings.